What's up, Ashen Ones? You're listening to the Red Eye Orb Podcast, invading your headphones one soft band at a time. I'm here with Mike and Noah, and I'm Logan, and let's talk about some souls. So, we're going to start today by talking about some mechanics, and we're going to talk about basically the core game, and then we'll get into lore and characters specifically. But I think it's undeniable that there are some pretty drastic changes between all three games, but especially between Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3.
Definitely.
They're completely different games.
Oh, yeah.
I think the art style does a lot for that, too.
Exactly. I feel like even though
Personally, I love the Dark Souls 2 art style.
Oh, yeah. Because even though I feel like Dark Souls 3 is very much more of a direct sequel to Dark Souls 1 than Dark Souls 2, I feel like a lot of the lore gets kind of confusing when you add in Dark Souls 2. Not that it doesn't fit, it's kind of hard to tie together, because Miyazaki's hand was absent from Dark Souls 2, obviously.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, it does bring a lot of what we loved from Dark Souls 2, like the massive amounts of armor, the weapons, like the ridiculous weapons, especially like the Fumocho Greatsword.
There's even things that like I didn't think I would appreciate, but like the Estus shard system. That almost in Dark Souls 2 when I was first, when we were first greeted with the Estus shard system, I was super annoyed.
Yeah.
I was like, I should be able to kindle this bonfire and get 20 Estus shards and get, but slowly it grew on me because every time I found an Estus shard, it was a big moment.
Yeah.
It was I'm going to have more health now. And so in Dark Souls 3, I was like, when I saw they were going with the Estus shard system again, I was a little, I don't know, I didn't want to go back to Dark Souls 2. Yeah. I didn't want, but I felt like they did it very well, and I felt like the Estus shards were easier to find in Dark Souls 3.
Oh, definitely. And plus, the fact that made it a little bit better is the fact that you started with 4 Estuses instead of just one Estus.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that part of that is because of the introduction of the Ashen Estus, but the fact that we started out with 1 Estus flask in Dark Souls 2, but then you find out when you get to, once you get Malentia as a merchant, that you can buy life gems.
Yeah.
And so it kind of balanced itself out.
But even then, like, I mean, Dark Souls 2, I love the idea of the Estus shard after I got over it once in a while. But honestly, you didn't really need an Estus flask all that much. It was primarily life gems.
You were too slow. You had to stop and hit it, and life gems, you
just pop right in your hand.
Exactly. And you would heal more slowly, whereas the Estus would do a time, but it would do a pretty fast heal over time. Yeah. So that even if you did get hit, it'd pretty much be full health and you'd be getting hit. But the life gem, you'd basically have a little bit longer time to recover that health.
Oh, yeah. But if he didn't, or whatever, didn't take your full...
Hell yeah. There's a lot of people that thought that life gems took away some of the difficulty in Dark Souls 2. Because you could stockpile 99 life gems. Yeah. So in any boss fight, as long as you knew how to evade attacks, you always could be at full health.
Yeah.
But I felt the bosses in Dark Souls 2, especially in the DLCs, were difficult enough that it balanced out.
Yeah. I mean, there were... Honestly, with Dark Souls 2, the bosses, I thought, were I don't know, I guess sort of cheesy in the sense that circle strafing was a big part of most of the boss fights. There were a large amount of boss fights that were humanoid enemies that you would just circle strafe.
Yeah, and I understand that complaint because there were a lot of people when the game first launched, they said, there's too many guys in armor as bosses. Yeah. You had Dragon Rider and...
the thing is, you could just use the mace the entire time. The mace destroyed armored enemies.
and I could see that complaint a lot, but I felt like a lot of the DLC bosses ended up making up for what lacked in the main game. But moving on to Dark Souls 3, so the Estus shard system was really interesting. One thing that I was really surprised about as soon as I started playing was the new storage system that carried over from Bloodborne. Because you remember, obviously in Bloodborne, you could only carry 5 beast blood pellets or whatever, and at one time, and the rest would be stored in your little storage case. And I was surprised to see that brought over to Dark Souls 3. When, the past games, you could just have 99 everything, 1,000 arrows, and all that.
Yeah.
But I feel like that storage system, it helps balance the game in a way, but I feel like it's detrimental to gameplay at the same time because it limits a lot of, almost run or build capabilities, because archery, you can only have 99 of each arrow.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you look at Lobos, he's done challenge runs where it's like bow only runs.
Shout out to Lobos Jr.
Oh yeah, Lobos.
Go on.
Awesome streamer. But Lobos, he's always done he'll always have 999 arrows and do bow only runs.
Oh yeah.
And now that bows are actually a viable weapon in the game, they seem to have just limited the arrow amount.
Oh yeah. And don't get me wrong, bow or in archery builds rather are still completely viable because Lobos, as we know, has already done a full bow run.
Exactly.
But the thing is you had to constantly be switching between arrow types a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
you burn 99 of the fire arrows. Well, now I have to go into my inventory and switch to a different type of arrow.
Yeah.
But I also felt like bows did enough damage that it didn't the storage system didn't kill archery.
Yeah. I definitely noticed that bows do considerable amounts of more damage while also being easier to use. It's more fluid in its design, how you can use it in battle. Now you can roll while aiming and everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's, of course, the sword art. You can you got your puncture shot and all that cool stuff. But I guess my real question is when the system carried over to consumables though, and that really was weird for me. I don't understand how me only being able to carry 10 black fire bombs is beneficial.
Yeah, honestly, that does seem way too low of amount, especially when you got these later abyss beasts that take enormous.
Yeah, and even with the scaling that some of those consumables had, it still didn't make a difference. Right?
Yeah, I like the fact that they added scaling with the consumables, but you also got to think when you get into New Game Plus or New Game Plus 2, those abyss beasts are going to have 10 times the amount of health, and those fire bombs basically just be useless.
Yeah, they're definitely not as viable as they would be in New Game, but the amounts were surprising to me. I understand why someone would say, you don't need 999 poison arrows. You can cheese your way through the game. I understand that. But I don't understand why I don't understand why I can only carry 20 fire bombs.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I've learned to work around it. It doesn't ruin the game by any means. No. But it was a strange decision.
But I mean, I guess with every Souls game, you're going to get some sort of mechanic that just seems like it shouldn't be in there.
Yeah,
but you work through it. That's the way it's been with every Souls game.
It's probably on purpose. He's making it mentally hard as well.
yeah.
just some new way to piss you off.
Yeah.
I guess a way that it does help balance is that I can't sit there with 99 black fire bombs and just cheese every enemy in the area. I understand that, so it's not a terrible system. It was just kind of a strange choice for me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about perhaps the most controversial mechanic of the game. Let's talk about poise. So basically, when I enter the world of Dark Souls 3, I'm met with these terrifying enemies, and so I'm gonna need a shield, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I get my shield, and I realize that I'm not really absorbing shots like I did in the 2 previous games.
No.
I'm noticing that I'm being stun locked a lot more.
Oh, definitely. Especially when you get to that dragon place. Those guys stun lock the hell out, especially the big guys, and they do massive damage.
Oh yeah. See, that's what I was getting frustrated because I didn't understand because poise is a visible stat in Dark Souls 3.
Exactly.
You can go into your menu and see how much poise you have, which is almost insulting.
And you can even like see how much poise a certain weapon is going, weapon or armor is going to give you.
And so, and I'm playing through the game and I'm confused why, every enemy getting hit twice with a longsword is stun locking me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go to the internet. I get on the Dark Souls 3 subreddit. I'm looking at forums and I'm wondering what's going on with poise. Is it something I'm doing wrong? Did they change the system in a way that maybe it doesn't work how it did in the past 2 games?
Yeah.
And everybody's saying the same thing. Poise doesn't work at all. It doesn't work at all. There was actually someone that did an experiment. I think it was Limit Breakers. Shout out to Limit Breakers.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely saw that one. That was hilarious.
They did a video where they were wearing like full habbles and were getting stun locked by a rat.
Yeah, the thing is, that stone armor, you could wear that in real life and someone could probably come in with a battering ram and not move you.
But that's what I'm saying, and they drop down into that little, you drop down into that little sewer in Undead Settlement with all the rats and stuff, and you're walking through, and you're full habbles, you're sitting there getting stun locked by 2, small rats, not even the big ones.
Yeah, not the big ones.
The small rats.
Yeah, little guys that come halfway up your shin are stun locking you in a armor set made of stone.
So everyone feels the same as we do. Where is poise? Because it's not working, and the only time that poise seems to work is hyper armor. Mm-hmm. Conditional little. You can get hyper armor through various sword arts and whatnot.
Or perseverance from the talismans and everything.
Yeah. But what really confuses me is, so everybody is complaining about poise. They're messaging Bandai. They're complaining to From. Where's poise? Why am I getting stun locked? It's not working. It's broken. Well, then these people go into the game. They go into the game code. They go whatever, and they find out that poise is actually at a 0 value. It's turned off in the game technically, and so they're investigating it. They're like, why is poise turned off? So they're contacting Bandai, they're contacting From, blah blah.
Yeah. And
you sit there and wait weeks for a response. Finally, From and Bandai come out and they say, poise is working exactly as we intended it to. And they go on to explain that poise works differently in Dark Souls 3 than it did in Dark Souls 1 and 2, in terms of, conditional moments of hyper armor, and that poise works in invincibility frames versus vulnerability frames. But what are you thinking on that? Does it ruin a lot of the combat, or? Honestly,
no. If it ruined the combat for me, because you don't get super stun locked. Say you were in Dark Souls 2 and you had very low poise armor, you can get freaking super stun locked.
Oh yeah, until you're dead. They're just gonna keep hitting you.
But in this game, even if you had the highest poise possible, you can still roll through. After the second attack, you can pretty much just roll through it.
Yeah.
And in that way, it's reminiscent of Demon Souls. There was no poise system in that game whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you basically just either dodged really well, got hit twice, and then rolled away from it, or you just held up a giant shield most of the time, which in that game was really tough because, item burden.
The shields were heavy.
Yeah, shields were heavy, and you had freaking storage burden.
Oh yeah, which brings us to our next topic, because that's all we know on poise right now. We don't know if there will be a change in the future.
Yeah.
We don't know if it will continue to only work conditionally in certain moments, blah, blah, blah.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind it that much, because, we have so many weapons with the Perseverance perk.
The way I see it, I've learned to play the game as it is, so the addition of poise would mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
But moving on from poise, let's talk about the changes to combat in Dark Souls 3. We've got now, first and foremost, the first thing you see when you come in, I got this blue bar between my health and stamina now.
Yep.
And when you start as a sorcerer, you start as a pyromancer, you realize you don't have limited cast anymore. There's not a 3 over fireball or whatever.
Yeah.
So now, any kind of casting, miracles, sorceries, pyromancies, hexes, are all tied to this mana bar, which I think is a fantastic.
Oh yeah,
fantastic. Because it's how it was in Demon Souls.
Exactly. I loved how Demon Souls had all those bars, and you could just refill it by eating some grass.
Oh yeah. And that's in
spice.
And now in Dark Souls 3, the Ash and Flask.
Yeah.
Estus Flask, rather. Or it might just be the Ash as Estus Flask, I don't remember.
Actually, I think it is Ashen.
Yeah.
Either way. You know, the blue one. You know what I'm talking about.
The blue one.
Okay. So, so I think that really made a lot of, like, casting Battle Mage type builds really viable, because now I don't have to, now I don't get 3 chances to score this, or 3 chances to hit him with this lightning spear, and then I gotta go sit at a bonfire.
Yeah. Though, counter argument.
Okay.
They have made spells a lot worse in this game. When it comes to damage, like, the thing is, the spell casting can still be as slow, though, if you have massive amounts of
Dex or the Sage Ring.
Like, what's the stat for it? Intellect or
Intelligence.
What raises FP?
Attunement.
Attunement. Yeah, attunement increases the spell speed and everything.
Well, dexterity is tied to spell casting.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, which that's how it's been in all the games. So it doesn't like I think a good item that really offset having to invest a lot into dexterity for casting is the Sage Ring that you find in Road to Sacrifices near the Crystal Sage boss. Because the Sage Ring, as I take it, I've done research, I could be completely wrong, but it gives you 20 virtual dexterity. So you won't see it reflected in your actual stats, but you have this virtual dexterity that's helping you increase casting speed, which I thought was really cool. It keeps you from having to invest 20 levels into dex.
Oh, definitely.
That being said, kind of going off what you were saying, how you said it, it kind of maybe made, in some aspects, casting worse.
Yeah. Especially the affinity thing. Have you seen how slow that thing is?
It's not just affinity. Wrath of the Gods is slow.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many spells that, like, they seem to have slowed down. But the problem is, it's not that they slowed it down, because casting speed, you got those really powerful spells. It should take a while to cast.
Yeah.
The problem is, the damage doesn't reflect it.
I used Wrath of the Gods on someone, 200 damage.
Yeah, it doesn't reflect it at all. Because I was just doing I was working on a Paladin. I'm sitting there with, 35, 40 faith, and I'm only hitting, 198, 200 with Wrath of the Gods. And I'm wondering,
exactly,
this used to be the OP miracle.
Exactly. That thing used to, like, wreck with, like, 1,600 damage.
Oh, yeah.
Even larger than that.
And I'm not saying overpower it, but make it useful, because I've noticed just going through on my Paladin build that there are very few miracles that are worth your time.
Exactly. Like,
I mean, outside of Deep Protection or Sacred Oath that give you buffs, like actual like damaging miracles, like spears and stuff, are worthless.
Yeah, like Sunlight Spear does like almost nothing, and that's Sunlight Spear.
Yeah, the other night I literally farmed 30 Sunlight Medals so I could get Great Lightning Spear. Does nothing. Yeah. It's completely worthless.
Like, Great Lightning Spear was awesome. Sunlight Spear destroyed, but now they're just crap.
and I wonder why that is. I think it was a weird way of balancing the game, but if you make a certain aspect of combat completely not viable and completely make it to where miracles aren't worth your time, people stop investing levels into faith.
Yeah.
People stop trying miracle builds because they're not worth your time.
Yeah, and honestly, can you realize how excited I was when I found a spell that makes me do a Kamehameha wave?
Oh yeah, what is that? Soul Stream.
Yeah, and it does nothing!
Well, it can, but that's the thing, is miracles, minus the buffs, they feel very worthless.
Yeah.
But the thing is there's this other thing that they say, oh, if you cast Lightning Spear close enough to somebody, like in close range, it'll hit harder.
Yeah.
But isn't the point in casting like long range combat?
Exactly. Like, Lightning Spear is supposed to be a long range thing. If you want to do close range, get lightning steak.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There are miracles that fit both close and long range combat.
Precisely.
And I don't understand why they made combat only viable close range. But that being said, we do need to mention that sorceries are not near as bad as where miracles are. Because sorceries, you can still do some damage.
Yeah.
With the right equipment. Pyro is
and with the
crazy.
fast enough casting time.
Yeah. Pyromancies are crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They do, great Chaos Fireball, is that what it is?
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing, what is that, 5-shot Aldrich?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, but I've been watching this, this actually has Vadi in it. Shout out to Vadi.
Vadi, yeah.
But I've been watching this one channel called Kriken 2, and he's playing with Vadi.
Okay.
And some other guy called, what was he?
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I forget his name, but he's playing with those two, going through the game in sort of, I guess, RP sense. He's playing as a guy called.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
just kind of
Edward.
Okay.
He's playing Edward Emberpants.
Okay.
And he's basically going through.
Name.
Yeah, he's basically going through the game as a obnoxious chosen undead who have these sunlight warriors, which is Vadi and the other guy escorting him through, and he's basically just doing everything he can to mess him up. But he's playing a pyromancer build, and they've been doing online stuff, and I've just been seeing like his chaos fireballs were just wrecking everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They have made pyromancies very viable. They're like back to where they were in Dark Souls 1. Because in Dark Souls 1, if you could kind of cheat and soul dupe and get that pyromancy glove like ascended in +10 in no time.
Exactly.
Which made soul level 1 very easy.
Oh, definitely. Like soul level 1 was super easy in that game.
But minus Beta Chaos, I will never get to that boss.
Beta Chaos is a dick.
There's a time and a place for a Beta Chaos rant. It's not here. But okay, so casting is there. Maybe not completely balanced, but maybe in future patches we'll see them rework miracles. Because I love miracles, and I feel like they should be viable again.
I do too. And plus, what better time to add a little bit more flair to miracles now that they've added blessed weapon? Like,
oh yeah,
I love that. Like, it looks so cool when you add it on
like
there.
Blue.
Yeah, it's just that blue sparkly glow. It looks so cool, but it does crap damage.
Yeah.
I've been wasting my time doing a faith build.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I basically have a pyromancer, but I've been switching from faith and pyromancy mainly because I just want healing spells. It's just, I mean, like the way
but it's not worth the faith investment.
Exactly.
They're really not, and that's why I think hopefully in some future patches we'll see From rework it, because despite the strange decisions that From has made recently, with patches and breaking and unbreaking the game on PC.
Oh yeah, we won't go into that just yet.
But I still believe in From Software. I still believe that they care about the fan base, and I hope in future patches that idea will be reflected.
Well, honestly, we got to keep our faith in From Software because they are really the very, very rare company that actually appreciates its fans.
You have so many companies out there. Like I won't get into it because I don't want to anger people. But we know who we're talking about. But I'm saying there's a lot of developers out there that pump out the same crap every year and for the same audience. But the thing is it's not. It seems like the love of video games came after how much money can we make on this.
Exactly.
And they can't. That has to be one and the same. Profit and quality have to be the same idea there.
And that's what Miyazaki sees.
And that's what From Software has done. They've put faith in the fan base, knowing that if they put out a product that may be ambitious, or they put out a product that most developers would be like, that's not going to sell, they believe in the fans, so they'll try crazy things because they know they've earned our trust and we'll buy it.
Exactly.
And that's how more developers should be.
Every time I see a game with From Software's title in it, like it has it on the screen, I have faith in that game that it's going to be fun to play. It's going to be good. It's going to have great mechanics.
Think of how crazy of an idea it is that From Software has made this enormous name for themselves based on one series.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
That you can say Armored Core and all that. No. Dark Souls put them on the map. Demon Souls, really, but Dark Souls 1 put them on the map.
Exactly.
And so From Software has become this giant in the video game community, especially the RPG community. Mm-hmm. They dominate RPGs now, and they put all of it in one series because they've taken this time and care to make good games and not pump out crap.
Precisely. And the thing is, they know when to stop. They've made it clear that this is the last Dark Souls game, and they're going on to other things. And it felt
very satisfying, and I'm sure after the DLCs, it'll feel even more satisfying.
Exactly.
But
glad I spent that $80.
Now moving on to more mechanic talk here. Let's talk about another, on the topic of From Software and Dark Souls 3 Online, rather. The console versions seem to be very, very decent. They're running very well. And the online seems to be having, very few issues.
Yeah.
But the PC version is out of control.
Here we go. Here it goes.
So, basically, if you don't know, and you're listening, you don't know.
And this is in reference to our beginning title.
Yeah. Now the SoftBand thing will make sense. Basically, if you play Dark Souls 3 and you never get online and you've been living under a rock, you may not know that there's been this huge hacking thing going on where these jerks have been going online and are ruining players' experiences by hitting them with hacked weapons or dropping impossible amounts of items like 99 boss souls and stuff like that. But the thing is normally you would hear that and you would say, oh, it's just hacking, they'll ban the hacker. That is the opposite. That's not the issue, because they're soft banning the victim.
Exactly.
The people, these innocent players are online just trying to co-op or PvP and are getting invaded by these players that are hacking them, but the people that got invaded are getting punished.
Well, the thing is you don't even know until it's too late.
Exactly. This guy can come in, drop a stack of 99 boss souls, black crystal out, and I'm already soft banned.
Exactly. You don't even know where he freaking ended up.
Yeah, I'm soft banned before I even see him. It just says you get invaded by blah blah blah, and I've been lucky enough not to get soft banned yet. But it's like people on PC, they paid the same amount as anybody else. And now they have to be afraid to play a game they paid for.
Yeah, true.
They have to be afraid to log in, and they have to be afraid of the developer and the publisher perma-banning them for something they had no part in. They did not cheat.
Yeah.
They didn't. And now, From Software has officially put out a statement that says the victims are not going to be. They're not going to be punished. We're trying to figure out who's the hacker, who's not. We're going to reverse the soft bans, blah blah blah. But it's like this shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Exactly.
You got these innocent players that are just trying to play. Their experience is being ruined by hackers. And games on launch are going to have hackers.
Yeah.
That's understandable. But From and Bandai's response to it has been less than satisfying. Especially, I don't want to get too into the, he said, she said stuff, but, just some of the statements that have been made by Namco Bandai or whatever, that, they're blaming the victim, saying, like, you could alt F4, or you could log out, or you could black crystal or whatnot. But I shouldn't have to do that.
Exactly.
I shouldn't have to worry about this. And they say, "Oh, we're fixing the hackers. But what are we on, the 4th or 5th patch, and we're still not there? Like, I don't know. It's concerning. And I'm not saying they're not going to fix it. They still have time to fix it. It's just the situation in and of itself is very concerning.
And one thing I do find really concerning is the hackers. In every Dark Souls game, I have never seen, this enormous amount of people just screwing people over, especially with the hack you told me about not too long ago, where people are hitting people with a sword and deleting their character.
Well, there were a lot of people that said that happened to them.
That blew my fucking mind. Why? Why would you do that?
But the thing is we can't waste time on why did this hacker do this. We need to patch it and get rid of it, because there's no time. These people the game's been out for what, 5-6 weeks, and already you're to the point where you can't play it online. That's a problem. But that's enough of a rant on that.
I mean, if we need to, we can go in more detail if people want to hear more about it.
If there's any more developments on that, we will definitely reiterate the conversation, and we will add any new information. Let's get back to mechanics that were changed in Dark Souls 3 that we really enjoyed, or didn't enjoy. One thing that I was really, or perhaps most impressed with, was the new Infusion System.
Oh, definitely. I love it.
How we went, and that's one thing that I felt carried over from Dark Souls 2 very well, is let's be honest, the upgrade system in Dark Souls 1 was insane. It was insanity. Red Titanite, Blue Titanite, Red Titanite slabs, Blue Titanite.
Dude, I didn't even know where to find Red Titanite slabs.
Dude,
I didn't know Red Titanite slabs existed for the longest time.
Until I went for all achievements, I didn't know that White Titanite slabs were a thing at all.
I've never seen a White Titanite slab.
So Dark Souls 1, the upgrade system was absolutely out of control.
Even more out of control than Demon Souls. For the first, for the first 5 to 10 hours of gameplay, I was confused on
how did you even upgrade this?
And then I found out certain weapons take the heavy and other weapons take the sharp, or whatever it was.
Yeah, and obviously Dark Souls 3 borrowed from that as much as they borrowed from Dark Souls 2, because Dark Souls 2, go ahead.
But that was also an infusion choice. Weapons weren't particular on the upgrade stone. It was an infusion choice instead.
Yeah, and that's why I think the Dark Souls 3 infusion system is perhaps the most intuitive upgrade path system that we've had in all of the games, because now what I think is really interesting with the introduction of a heavy, sharp, all the new gems that change scaling, that makes almost every single weapon that can be infused viable for any build you might be using.
Exactly.
So if there's a strength weapon that you have a dex build, but you really want that strength weapon, you can just make it sharp. There you go. It's viable for your build now. I think that's a really cool system.
Yeah, and even if sharp doesn't do it for say there's a scaling strength weapon, and sharp doesn't add crap to its dexterity scaling, you can just do quality.
Yep, and you can just have a quality
even
build.
them out.
You can just. I thought that was really cool, but on the other hand, on the other side of that issue, I think it does some bad too, and I will explain myself here. What I really enjoyed about the previous Dark Souls games were that a weapon scaling, that weapon was that weapon.
Yeah.
If you wanted to use a strength weapon or a huge strength weapon, you couldn't just change it to a dex weapon. You had to have a strength build to use that weapon.
Yeah.
And so I think the infusion system is fantastic. It's definitely added a lot of good to the game. But I in some respect, I do miss weapons being they were built for that build.
Yeah.
You've got those, and there still are those weapons, especially ones that can't be infused in Dark Souls 3. But I guess I just kind of miss that to some extent. Like the Smelter Hammer in Dark Souls 2, that was a strength weapon.
Yeah.
You couldn't change it to dex, you couldn't change it to intelligence.
No.
It was you invested 50 strength or you weren't using it.
Exactly.
And I thought I kind of missed that in some respect, but not enough that I would change the infusion system.
Yeah, and I can definitely see where you're coming from, and honestly, it is a bit confusing on why they did this, but I guess in order for the large assortment of infusion to be viable, weapons don't seem to have that high of scaling anymore. They seem to have a lower scaling than they usually did. The Uchi, I would usually get an A scaling, but I have a fully leveled Uchi, and it's at B.
But you can infuse it with sharp.
Yeah, I have it sharp infused, and it only reached the B scaling.
I see what you're saying. There are fewer weapons that reach that S scaling.
Exactly.
But maybe that's
it's
a
not
good
even
thing.
the S scaling that I'm really concerned about.
Yeah.
A scaling is just fine with me, but even that seems to be rare now.
You definitely got to find those weapons that were made, for that build. You know, you got to find the A and the S scaling weapons. But obviously I understand both sides. Let's talk about some lore. So each week when we do this podcast, we've decided that we're going to talk about a different boss, a different NPC, different area. And basically not spit the lore back out as many people have already done,
Basically, just read off an item description.
Yeah. And not that that's a bad thing. You can, if that's your thing, go for it. But basically what we want to do is we want to take the item descriptions and the lore that we're given in the game and have a conversation about who these people are and what they mean to the game. So let's get into some lore. High Lord Wolnir. Or Wolnir. We're going to say Wolnir.
Yeah, Wolnir. That's what I've been calling him.
To my knowledge, nobody in the game says his name out loud, so you just read it.
I don't hear other people calling Wolnir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, High Lord Wolnir, we first encounter this boss in the catacombs of Karthus.
Yeah.
But you almost encounter him in an unorthodox way. It's not like you walk into a boss room. You find this goblet.
Actually, yeah, that is the most unorthodox way I've seen it in a Dark Souls game. Like, you just see a goblet, and honestly, it was a curveball.
Yeah, because you kind of walk, and especially when you get into the fight itself, you're just in the dark. You don't see anything.
Yeah.
And you see this item in front of you, and which obviously turns out to be the Grave Warden Pyromancies or whatever, but you get closer to this item as, obviously they're testing your greed there.
Shiny.
So you get close to this item, and then you see this hand sitting there. And you look up, and there's this colossal skeleton. And I thought that was a very... few times throughout the Soul series have I been more surprised by a boss reveal than that.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't see him. You didn't know what was going on. It wasn't like Manus when you fought Manus. He was right there.
Yeah.
You saw him and everything, but Wolnir's just kind of came out of nowhere. So basically, we have this warlord. We find out through item descriptions and stuff. We have this warlord who, to quote it directly, valued victory above all else.
Yeah, and he basically made all of his people that way as well.
Exactly. They would do anything to conquer kingdoms, surrounding kingdoms, and probably even Karthus itself at one time.
Yeah.
So we find out that this giant skeleton was this warlord that reigned over this desert type area.
Yeah, it was a desert land, and basically, once he became this warlord, Karthus experienced prosperity for the first time in a long time.
And Karthus itself became known for war.
Exactly.
They became known as these forces that just couldn't be taken down.
Yeah. Who would use any means necessary, even the darkest of ways to
exactly, because that's people. But that thirst for victory, that unquenchable thirst of conquering everybody, ultimately ends up being Wolnir's downfall.
Oh yeah.
Because we find out, that through item descriptions and various pyromancies, that Wolnir became attracted to the abyss and the magic and sorceries, rather, that could be used thereof.
And one of the most interesting things is when he did seek the abyss, after he got too involved, I found it really interesting that this battle-hardened, dark warlord who would do anything and everything for victory, experienced fear for the first time.
Yeah, we really get... I felt like that was a great way to paint a picture of what the abyss is.
Exactly.
It's this all-consuming dread. It's this all-consuming just pit of despair that is the darkest. It's like they always refer to the abyss as like the darkest things within man.
Exactly.
And that, any man that gives himself over to the abyss will eventually be consumed by it. Artorias being the example.
Oh yeah.
So Wolnir, he starts investigating the abyss as a way of maybe we can harness its power to conquer even further.
Mm-hmm.
If we can harness the abyss, we'll be able to conquer anybody.
Exactly.
And so, but what obviously, as we know from past Souls games, what happened with Nishandra and Manus and all this stuff from the abyss is that ultimately, as powerful as the abyss can make you, the abyss will in the end always overtake you.
Yeah.
So Wolnir gets overtaken by the abyss. He just can't. He gets consumed and trapped in the abyss because he's been messing with it for too long. He's been interested in the sorceries and the pyromancies in harnessing the power. And so that's where we find him. Is obviously he's been consumed and is in the abyss.
Yeah. And interesting facts that I've been seeing is that, like, during the end of the boss fight, you see him being pulled into the abyss, and it's almost as if you can like see that fear in him, just him grasping at the ground, trying to keep himself from the abyss after you destroy all of his holy relics.
Exactly. In the holy relics themselves, you walk in and you see he's wearing these 3 bracelets, and through item, you read his soul, and it says that he found these off of clerics and was using that and his holy sword as a way to almost combat the abyss. Obviously, it wouldn't end up working in his favor. It'd be trivial.
I mean, the most it did was keep him from being just completely
which is why, obviously, like you said, when we destroy all 3 bracelets at the end of the boss fight, we see him being completely dragged and consumed by the abyss. However, I found something very interesting about the mechanics of the boss fight is that Wolnir can be defeated without ever breaking the bracelets.
Oh yeah.
He has hitboxes underneath him. If you want to run under him, you can just hit his little like organ sac and his rib cage.
Yeah.
Actually, I think his rib cage does not have a hitbox, but the organ and undercarriage sac there, it has a hitbox. And what I found was interesting is that you can kill him without breaking those bracelets, and it's a different death animation.
Really?
If you kill him without ever breaking those bracelets, he doesn't get sucked in. He just kind of raises up and yells and dies.
Wow.
And
I haven't tried to kill him the other way yet.
I thought that was really cool that you really don't even have to kill him. You can, or you don't have to kill him as, the game intended. Because you walk in, you're like, oh, I gotta break these bracelets, and he gets consumed. I think that's so cool when From includes little things like that.
Yeah.
Like, you can defeat a boss 2 different ways, and there's 2 different death animations.
Yeah, and, I mean, that's another thing that you've definitely surprised me with, because, like, when you told me about those pontiff dogs outside of, or, like, on the bridge of Irithyll.
Yeah.
How before they die, if they have that sliver of health, they'll beg for their lives.
Well, especially the ones in the one in the water reserve bonfire near on Orlando. If you go down there are 2 of the pontiff's little pet things down there, and if you get one of if you get them within you have to stagger them, and so if you stagger them, but they only have a sliver of health left, they'll actually roll over and pray for you to not kill them, which is, it's just little stuff like that really impresses me on From's part.
Exactly.
It's really just high attention to detail that doesn't go unnoticed, and I really appreciate that.
I'm so glad they've developed, like, different things that can take place. Like, if you do something differently, something might happen differently. Like, I'm glad they've been adding that more frequently with the enemies.
I think it goes without saying that on the surface, the Dark Souls series seems like your typical series of RPGs that you play through it once, you finish the story, and that's it. But fans of the series realize that there's so much replayability buried under all that.
Exactly, like
is especially with the introduction in Dark Souls 2 of reallocating your stats. If you're one of those people that you finish the game and you don't want to restart from the beginning, you can just go to Rosaria, reallocate your stats, do a different build, go to New Game Plus.
Yeah. And that's another thing I love. Like, it's not an automatic New Game Plus.
Yeah, you can get ready for New Game Plus. And obviously they brought that over in Dark Souls 2. Yeah. But in Bloodborne, it was automatic New Game Plus after you defeated Gehrman. So I was worried. I was like, I wonder if Dark Souls 3 it's gonna be auto New Game Plus. I appreciate that they made that decision. Yeah. One of the most interesting things about Wolnir that you don't see. It's one of those things that's like the details of the lore are buried within what you're seeing. Rarely are they going to just explicitly tell you what's going on.
No.
You have to use your eyes and just see and listen for the things. You're experiencing the world in such an immersive way. Because they're not throwing walls of text at you.
No.
You're seeing everything for yourself, and you're piecing the story together for yourself. So one of those things I thought was really cool is the Abyss Watchers fight, which is obviously right before Catacombs of Karthus. That the Abyss Watchers, their whole thing was, obviously preventing the Abyss from spreading and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting that they had sealed the catacombs off there and were guarding the catacombs.
While beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah. Well, I think that's ultimately because they got consumed by the Abyss.
Yeah.
Some of them did, but that's a different podcast. So they seal Wolnir in, or we assume that they did based on what we see there. But what I thought was equally interesting is before Wolnir, he's trapped by the Abyss Watchers, and then after Wolnir, when you get to Irithyll, they have that like spell fog over the city.
Yeah.
Which I can only surmise, or rather assume that that it was also used to prevent the Abyss from getting into their city.
Yeah.
That way only people. Well, we see on the small doll description that only people like that Pontiff said could come back into the city because you had to have that little token, which is why you can't get into the city without the small doll.
Yeah.
But I also think it almost doubled as a shield from the Abyss. That way it couldn't get into their city, which I thought, again, From's attention to detail just on point.
Definitely.
But what about... My question is, who sealed Wolnir? Like, what's up with the goblet? Who sealed him in there? Was it the Abyss Watchers? Or was it Karthus's armies themselves?
See, that's another thing. I was watching a video earlier yesterday, and apparently that area wasn't the original place you were supposed to fight Wolnir.
Oh, really?
Because if you looked at the trailer, it actually shows Wolnir in a completely different area.
He was like in a water room. There was like water on the floor and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah. It shows him in a completely different room, and apparently, like, this guy had gone into the files, and apparently that was actually an item that you got.
That's pretty cool. The goblet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess it's kind of up to you to decide, who put the goblet there. I think it could have been the Abyss Watchers, but it also could have been Karthus themselves trying, prevent them from the same fate as Wolnir.
Honestly, I think it might be a third party, like something else, because I can't really see the Abyss Watchers doing that. They're a group of swordsmen who go to fight the Abyss. They're not really a bunch of people who are into the whole, sealing things through magic and everything.
You could be right. And it may not have been Karthus themselves, because you realize when you're in the catacombs that the armies of Karthus themselves have been consumed by the Abyss.
Yeah, and they're still war-hungry people.
Which I thought was that's interesting, that there's some stuff there's some stuff throughout the game like that you just kind of, it's up to you to decide why you think that is there. Yeah. And I really appreciate that about the game. one other small thing, obviously, we talked about Wolnir and how awesome he is. One small thing I thought was really interesting, and it doesn't really add anything, but it's just kind of interesting tidbit, is the description of the yellow bug pellets. Says, obviously, yellow bug pellets, use them to reduce lightning damage for an amount of time. The description of that says that the armies of Carthage use the yellow bug pellets to defend themselves against the great sandworm in Smoldering Lake. Because it said when the sandworm first showed up, it was in the catacombs. And they used the yellow bug pellets to defend themselves from its electric attacks before they may have drove it to Smoldering Lake, or it may have gone to Smoldering Lake on its own. But it says that it ultimately found a new home down there. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that. That's actually really cool.
That sandworm in Smoldering Lake, that Carthus, had to fight them, and that it just even little enemies like that have a backstory. I thought that's cool. That something as insignificant as you walk down, you're like, oh, there's a giant worm down here, I get to fight this. It even has a little backstory. Yeah. That's really cool.
So I pretty much cheesed that worm. Like, a lot of people saying it's annoying to face him.
Yeah.
But basically, I just went right in front of him, and he just kept shooting lightning behind me, and I was just hitting him over and over.
Oh, I had to go with the old school Dark Souls 1 cheese of just finding a spot to arch him from. Just hit him with arrows.
Oh, that would have taken forever, because I was using Fume Ultra Greatsword, and that shit was doing no damage.
Alright. Well, we want to close every podcast with a little segment of just general discussion about a boss or an area we really enjoyed.
Yeah, something that really impressed us.
Why we enjoyed it. And I do want to state that this is not going to be strictly a Dark Souls 3 podcast. We're focusing on Dark Souls 3, obviously, because it's the newest game. But there will be plenty of Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Demon Souls talk, all of that.
And honestly, if it is requested, even if it's not requested, we can't forever just talk about all of Dark Souls. Trust me, it'll last us a very long time going into Dark Souls. But honestly, we can cover other games. If we feel like it, we could go talk about Fallout 4 if we wanted to.
Yeah. But obviously,
our primary focus is Dark Souls.
We are a Dark Souls podcast, and that's why we're going to, always be pumping out kind of as much Dark Souls content as we can for you to listen to and enjoy. So finally, what I want to talk about is Soul of Cinder. I want to talk about when this insane, crazy boss that you walk into. First of all, it all starts at the end of the game. You get transported to Kiln of the First Flame.
Yeah.
And so you show up at Kiln of the First Flame, and immediately I'm like, oh man.
It's like a combination of all the fallen lands put there.
And it, like, when you see that go across the screen, it's almost like that feeling of just like, it's all come full circle.
Exactly.
Everything you've done in the past 3 games, everything you did in Dark Souls 1, 2, and now 3, and the DLCs and all that, it all came down to that. It came full circle. You're back at the Kiln. But the Kiln of the First Flame, we realize, looks very different this time around.
Yeah.
It's not where we fought Gwyn in the first one.
No, he had his own little structure thing going.
Which I thought Profane Capital looked a lot like Kiln of the First Flame in Dark Souls 1, but we can talk about it at a different time.
Yeah.
So you're walking up to this giant mountain-esque hill thing, to what looks like the doorway to a boss fight. You're getting anxious because it's the final. You can feel it's the final boss fight, and you go in there, and it's just what appears to be a humanoid.
Yeah.
It's just a human guy, which, minus Nashandra, all the final bosses have been, Gwyn was humanoid, Gehrman was humanoid,
and
generally
King Allant.
Yeah, he had Demon Souls. He was human. So Miyazaki, it didn't surprise me that the final boss was a humanoid. Obviously, he's a soul. But I walk in and I'm thinking, first of all, just how beautiful the boss room is there.
Oh, yeah.
Just this giant field, the dark sign in the sky there.
The swords scattered throughout the
and the
arena.
Just and then the fight starts.
Mm-hmm.
And
with just him getting up
from that bonfire. Oh, man. It was so good. And your heart starts pounding.
I know.
And so when he gets up, it's on. Like, it is the most fast-paced. Like, this guy is switching between, like, every build that every PvPer has ever used.
Yeah.
Like, it's switching between, you know, pyro, miracles, and a spear. He had, like, sorceries and all kinds of, you know, he's using all kinds of melee weapons, and they're throwing everything at you that you have learned over the past 3 games.
Yeah.
And it's just all at once. And it's such a frustration, and you're just in awe the whole time, though.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Like, his moves are just insane. Especially when you get, like, his health down to the first, like, through the first phase. Yeah. And then he goes into his Gwen phase.
When that piano kicked in.
Oh, my God. I loved the music when the piano kicked in. And then he just does these, like, insane fire moves.
It's like Hyper Gwen.
I know. It was so awesome. It gave me chills throughout the entire fight.
I'll admit, though, that second phase, when he went into that, when the Gwen move set, I was like, I was blown away, but I also was like, I'm going to parry you. Because that's what we did in Dark Souls 1. That was not the case.
No. I tried to fucking parry him. that did not go well for me.
That was not the case at all. That guy is ferocious. And, okay, my favorite part, the part of that fight that, you know, dang near made me drop my controller was when he did the Dark Wood Grain Ring backflip.
Oh my God, that surprised the fuck out of me.
When he did that backflip, I was like, oh, no,
you bastard. Don't you dare.
It was so cool and so satisfying. It's just the ultimate PvP battle in learning just using all these skills you picked up, and he still kicks your ass.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it felt so Dark Souls. That's what it felt like. It felt like, you know how to defend all this, you know how to fight this guy, but you don't.
Exactly. Like, you've practiced this, you know how to do this, but now here it is, and only super powered.
Oh, yeah. And all just so great. Such a great final boss.
And actually, Noah, that's actually a really good point. All at once, like you fight so many different like types of players and enemies, but you get it all in one package with them.
And it's not like it was 4 distinct phases. He just switches through them at random. Okay, now you're getting hit.
He had certain like sections.
But you know what I'm saying.
That he would do. But boom.
Now you're getting hit with Wrath of the Gods. Now you're getting hit with Fireballs.
Oh yeah.
There's no other boss like that.
Exactly.
Every other boss you walk in, you're like, oh, his weakness is lightning. He's going to shoot me with magic. That's how I beat him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you walk into Soul Cinder, it's all skill. It's all you versus him, and he's just as good as you.
And the best thing is, it's randomized. Like, when I fought him, all he did pyromancy and sorcery. But I've seen other people fight him, and he goes into, like, the miracles where he's shooting lightning. Yeah. And, like, he changes it up every time. Like, that's the impressive thing. He's not like a carbon copy every time going into the different phases.
I won't go as far as, and we'll talk about this in a future podcast, I won't go as far as to say he's as difficult as Nameless King, because Nameless King is a discussion all in itself.
We'll be discussing him at some point.
Soul Cinder, fantastic boss. What I'm really interested in seeing is, where are we going to go in the DLC?
That's a good question.
Obviously.
A big chunk of DLC will be centered around, I feel like they didn't do enough with Yorm. I feel like they, promoted him enough, a lot.
I don't know that the DLCs will focus on any more of Yorm's story.
Yorm
but
himself,
I did feel, but I know where you're coming from.
More of him in the DLC, like more lore of him in the DLC. So.
But I know where you're coming from, though. I hope we get his armor. But I know where you're coming from, because I felt like Yorm, and we won't go into this too much detail, I felt like Yorm had like the least attention of all 3 Lords of Cinder.
He did.
But we'll talk about that in the future. So, thank you guys for joining us in this podcast. I've been Logan.
Very fun. I'm Michael.
I'm Noah.
And this is the Red Eye Orb. Catch you guys later.